Thank you everybody for joining us today. We're really excited to have you here for our second eLife Global South Committee for Open Science webinar, topic being mapping the open science landscape in the Global South. I'm Shane Alsop, I'm eLife's Publishing Development Manager, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. It's always interesting to know who you are, where you're from, dialing in from, and any other associated information you'd like to share. Welcome today. So as context, eLife is a non-profit organization that operates a platform to improve all aspects of research communication by encouraging and recognizing the most responsible behaviors in research. While our new model has the potential to make publishing a more inclusive enterprise, offering the benefits of scholarly review while giving authors more agency in the publishing process, we share a link now to the 1-year milestone, about which you can read more about our publishing model, including milestones and findings from the first year. But in order to fulfill the potential of our new model, we need coordinated efforts and to hear from the communities most impacted by the inequity in the status quo. To this end, we've established the eLife Global South Committee for Open Science to learn directly from our peers in the Global South so we can strive to overcome these barriers in the pursuit of inclusive, equitable, and more diverse scientific communications. Today, we're joined by the committee's founding members and 3 esteemed guest panelists who will discuss how policy, socioeconomic factors, cultural contexts, and interdisciplinary collaborations define and shape that open science landscape in the Global South. Following the panelists' presentations and discussion, we'll invite questions and comments from our audience. But first, I'll start with a bit of housekeeping. So during the webinar, we ask that you please be respectful, honest, inclusive, accommodating, appreciative, and open to learning from everyone else. We ask that you do not attack, demean, disrupt, harass, or threaten others, or encourage such behavior. And if you ever feel uncomfortable or unwelcome on any of these webinars, email via elifesafetyteam@protonmail.com. We reserve the right to ask anyone to leave and or to deny access to a subsequent webinar. So that we can continue to improve upon our webinars, we'd appreciate if you could complete our brief 4-question form, which you can access from the link or by scanning the QR code with your smartphone camera. And all that is left is for me to introduce Alavo, to welcome today's guest speakers and introduce our topic. Thank you, Alavo.
Thank you, Shane. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm delighted to welcome my fellow committee members as well as our guest panelists. I'll just say some brief words about the action of the committee. The eLife Global South Committee for Open Science was initially formed in 2023. It brings together researchers from different countries and territories that share characteristics with regard to socioeconomics, politics, and limited representation in the scientific space. And it tries to provide a way to give a greater visibility to this region. So the committee currently has representatives from Thailand, from Rwanda, from Argentina, from Nigeria, Kenya, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Brazil, which is myself. And we have just finished recruiting additional 3 members who will be announced in January. And we have been working for a little more than a year in trying to think of different ways to increase the visibility of open science in the Global South and the visibility of the Global South in the open science discussion. And I think one thing we have learned, from a personal perspective at least, is how little we actually know about what's happening in other regions of the world. I think each of us in the committee is knowledgeable about their own regions, but really, I mean, the world is very large and there's multiple initiatives in different parts of the Global South. They're sometimes converged and sometimes they don't. And I think one of our main priorities that we have perceived is that we have to try to map these initiatives and make us more visible towards each other, which is one of the reasons we're promoting this webinar. So we have done a previous webinar in the middle of the year, which was focused on grassroots communities promoting open science. You can watch this in YouTube. The link is here and should be in the chat as well. And today we're actually bringing in people who have been involved in more institutional initiatives concerning open access, open data, open education in different regions of the world in order to extend the discussion about how we can best join forces to promote open science and to actually make ourselves more visible. So I'm delighted to introduce our first guest, who is Nida Denfazarn. She has led strategic initiatives at UNINET, which is a network under the Taiwan's Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research, and Innovation, which fosters educational partnerships and expand digital resources and learning networks. She has been head of learning resources at TIDES, and she leverages her expertise to enhance research accessibility and strengthen Taiwan's library networks supporting collaboration, innovation, and accessible resources for academic and research communities in Taiwan. So Nita, welcome, and feel free to start whenever.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me here. First of all, I have to inform that I'm sick today. I have a sore throat, but I will try to do my best, okay? Okay, I have to introduce myself a little bit, right? I start my career in education almost 20 years ago as a computer teacher, and I later become a full-time lecturer at universities and have some experience with corporates in Thailand. And what's led me here working as a head of learning resources, Thailand Unit, under the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research, and Innovation, Thailand, as from the introduction. Okay. Okay, about Thailand. Thailand's establishment in 1990. Thailand's department has been a cornerstone in driving research and knowledge dissemination across Thailand. Our mission has always been empower research and education for focusing on centralized ICT management, fostering collaboration and leveraging technologies to enhance efficiency to promote knowledge development. Through the range of diverse services such as reference database, Union Catalog or UC, iThesis, AutoLib, and also Thai Digital Collection or TDC. We have consistently provide vital support to the academic and research communities. These services are more than tools. They are catalysts for collaborations, innovative, and society progress. So at Thailand, we focus on our key pillars that drive our mission and impact. First, we serve as the center of information and communication technologies for research, providing a centralized hub that empowers research with cutting-edge ICT tools and resources. Second, we are committed to promotion and support of collaboration research and resources, fostering partnerships and amplify the reach of effectiveness of research efforts. And third, we prioritize the promotion and support of knowledge management, ensuring that innovation and learning are at forefront of what we do. And finally, we emphasize the application of ICT for organization, management, and dissemination to network members, streamlining operations and delivering valuable insights and resources to our network. So through these pillars, we work strengthen with the academic and research landscape, connecting people, ideas, and institutions across Thailand and beyond. Thailand has proudly established itself as the national hub for information and communication technologies research. Serving as a central resource, we manage and provide essential ICT tools that empower research studies across the country. We have 5 services. Okay, I will start with the first one, reference database. We serve a vital hub for member registration, providing seamless access to electronic academic research database services for higher education institutions. Currently, we offer access to 9 comprehensive databases supporting the research needs of 80 government higher education institutions across the country. Second one is Union Catalog. We offer a database system that complies bibliographic list of library resources following international standards, specifically Mark 21. The system empowers users for single search features, allowing them to easily search for the check and availability of the library resources. Next one is iThesis. We provide a comprehensive data management system designed to support the preparation of thesis and dissertations. This system includes plagiarism detection mechanism to ensuring the integrity of the academic work and streamlines the management of doctoral and master's level thesis and research projects. Okay, we also have the software which is called Automate, Software Automate Library. We provide this system specifically designed for Thai higher education institutions. Our goal is to reduce the cost associated with purchasing and maintaining library software. And currently, we provide 3 systems that have already been successfully implemented in our 65 locations, helping institutions optimize their library management efficiently and affordably. And the last one is Thai Digital Collection, or TDC. It's our database serves as a comprehensive repository for higher education institutions. It includes thesis, research papers, academic articles, and even rare books, providing valuable resources for researchers, educators, and students. Okay, and last year, we were honored to receive a certificate from Asia Pacific Advanced Network to recognizing our efforts in connecting people, cultures, research, and educations. And we'll set this award as a new benchmark for Thai Library Network, and we are committed to sharing it to our cooperative libraries in coming year. So we passed these awards and wants to encourage users to take pride in utilizing our service and share valuable feedback to recognize the excellence. And we give the awards to our networks following these categories. For UC Catalog, we give the awards to the top 3 universities with the highest number of ILL or interlibrary loans within the system, and top 3 universities that have consistently contributed the most resources to the system. And for TDC or Thai Digital Collections, we awards to the top 3 universities with the highest number of the documents downloads, showcasing exceptional resources usage. So these awards celebrate the dedication of our member institutions and highlight their active engagement in advancing research and education. So at ThaiList, we remain dedicated to supporting the academic and research communities through our service, resources, and innovative platforms. We are constantly working to improve the way knowledge is shared, managed, and disseminated, and your engagement is vital to our continued success. I would like to extend my heartfelt thank you to all of the partners and members and all the participations in this webinar. Your collaboration and feedback are valuable for us in order to moving forward together. Thank you once again for having me here today, and looking forward to see the impact of our collaborative efforts in next further development together. Thank you.
Thank you, Nida. Jakir, can we have our slides back. So we move on now to Susan Veldsman. Susan is director of the Scholarly Publication Unit at the Academy of Sciences in South Africa, and she has been responsible for driving the open science agenda to raise the visibility, discoverability, and accessibility of South African scholarly journal and improve the quality of South Africa research output. She has received the Electronic Publishing Trust Award for her contributions to the promotion of open access in developing countries. She has been the co-chair of the report on combating predatory journals in conferences, and she has received recognition for her role in establishing a Cielo South Africa platform in South Africa, which is, of course, an initiative in collaboration with Latin America, which we're very proud of. So welcome, Susan. The floor is yours.
And thank you, Oliver, for the opportunity, and good afternoon then to all the colleagues. It's afternoon with me. So if it's good morning or good evening in your place, well, be greeted anyway. So I'm going to change the discourse a little bit. You will see that the title is Open Science and Open Access in Africa. So I'm going to take a continental view on all these issues. And I think that's also very important sort of in going forward and promoting in open science. So we must realize and we must recognize all of the tensions that's currently in scholarly publishing. For instance, the commercial pressures in scholarly publishing, the profit motives of publishers and high subscription costs, the monetization of knowledge. Then, of course, the whole push for the open access movement for accessibility, and also to have a look at the business models, the article processing charges, especially in developing countries where this is quite a challenge. And this is quite on top of the debate of researchers in developing countries. And then, of course, the funders' role to incentivize and to promote open access license. And then, of course, all this have an impact on the researchers. As I said, the publication costs, the equity concerns, namely that the commercial models may disadvantage researchers from developing countries, considering the underfunded institutions, and that might lead to unequal participation in global scholarship, and then the incentives and the recognition to participate in openness when it comes to promotion and the evaluation of researchers as such. And then on the technological and social considerations front, the emerging technologies of digital platforms and, of course, AI-powered tools that can support us in research publication and output. Through peer review, efficient peer review, streamline open access processes, and provide perhaps new funding mechanisms through collaborative platforms. And then the societal expectations where there's a pressure on government and institutions to ensure research is freely available. So as you can see, this is a whole ecosystem of pressures that forces us to look openly towards research output and the participation in global research, etc. I'd just like to mention and just confirm that although we're here at the tip of Africa, we all take cognizance of the Open Science UNESCO recommendations. I always say that I have been in open science, open access since 2002, and I think for the first time we are contextualizing the debate much better. The rhetoric around open science, open access is better positioned to show the world that they can benefit in just opening up as such. So that's why we like the UNESCO recommendations quite a bit. Also because it takes place in a very particular value system of quality, integrity, collective benefit, equity, fairness, and diversity and exclusiveness. But that the principles sort of anchor all these values in practicing open science principles. Also, the International Science Council has a very good definition of open science, and they put it under 3 pillars, so to speak: open access publishing, open data, and open to society. And this resonates very well with us being the Academy of Sciences of South Africa, because we believe that the results should really support humanity in achieving sustainable and an equitable life on planet Earth. Just want to say then broadly, if we look at Africa, it is very important that the open science policies should be set in a broader government policy context of socio-economic development that takes cognizance of global issues codified within the Sustainable Development Goals. Just want to mention and just say that South Africa has started about in 2018 already, also with some dialogues under the multilateral, bilateral of the SA European Union dialogue on open science, and we came up with a particular framework to advance open science in South Africa as well. But I'm sorry just to mention that it has not been approved and passed by Parliament yet, but it's at quite an advanced stage for South Africa. And then, of course, we also look at other policies being published internationally to see if we do align and whether we are all subscribing then to the same principles and value systems as such. We're not staying behind as an Africa continent. We are within the African Union. There's a digital transformation strategy that was crafted, a data policy framework in the sharing of data between countries. It's a highly problematic area within Africa because there's so many disparities between the different rules and regulations of countries. So it is important that we all function from the same premise when we also share data, and that we align with European Union as well as with the United States regulatory sort of framework. Currently, the African Open Science Project, which is a very important project that you should take cognizance of, is driving through the SADC a regional STI policy for open science as such. And I think that's very important to see the movement that's happening already on the continent. As well as the artificial intelligence, there are some intelligence strategies and artificial intelligence strategies happening. The criticism and the point that I want to point out is that it does not address research per se. So we'll have to have a look at that. But also in regional forums, open science is also promoted and highly recommended in official documents, etc., which I think is all important from a policy perspective as we move along. So if we look at policies in Africa, we can see that the blue part is the one that is sort of, it has been crafted, but it's sitting on the desks of the parliamentarians to finally approve it. Those in the grey, the dark grey, is in development or under discussion. So you can see the countries are starting to talk about it. And the only country on the Africa continent is Ethiopia, who has passed it's actually an open access policy, but they also included open data as to be recognized when talking about open access, etc. So that's quite significant as such. So there is movement, but extremely slow, we must say. But does that deter us from actually looking at open science and open access, and does it hold us back from our initiatives? No, it doesn't, because I think we're clear about the policy and sort of the framework in which open science should happen, and we just drive forward regardless of not having a policy in place for the country. ASIF has been in this space since 2009, and we realized it is time to actually showcase what we're doing, and we started to formulate it in an open science policy, which you can see right here. Also in line, again, not only with national imperatives, but also the continental and international imperatives as well. So there's huge alignment through all these documentation. So like any open access initiative starts, it normally starts with institutional repositories. So a little bit disappointed sort of as we started with major projects, namely there was data DR of African theses and dissertations, which was federated under one platform. But that seems to actually come to a stop because of a lack of support of funding and leadership in that space. But now we can see again that the African African Association of Universities is again starting to launch the Africa-wide University Research Archive of research being done in South Africa. And of course, Afrika is doing some major works in creating free repositories for authors to deposit their work in, and then to receive open peer review on the particular platform. So you can see that there's also quite some happenings right there. Then in terms of the Directory of Open Access Journals, you can see that the footprint is growing very slowly, and there's a huge drive within Africa to have the journals included into the Directory of Open Access Journals. Just want to mention that in South Africa, in Cape Town, there is a Open Science /Diamond Open Access Journal Summit taking place, has been for the whole week. And this is quite a problematic phenomena, because we can see that many of the other African journals are actually being disqualified in this directory because they're not adhering to standards. So there's a huge space for training and advocacy, and to see that that African journals actually comply to the criteria of DOIAS. So there's a lot of work to be done there, and that will certainly help us with the open access journals on the continent to get it of a particular quality. Then just want to point out, in response to the Open Research Europe platform repository, there's an Open Research Africa. This is a preprint repository, but it is subjected to subscription prices, which is also quite difficult for researchers from Africa to actually participate in, and we'll have to have a look at new ways in how we can participate in this very important platform as such. And then Afrikarchief has this preprint repository free. Just want to mention that the application or the depositing of preprints vary significantly across academic fields and geographical regions in Africa specifically. So there's very limited evidence as well at the moment regarding the number of preprints posted and used. So that is still another field that needs some further development. If we look at data sharing, this is a very interesting field. What we try to do here is to actually plot the different activities, open access activities, open repositories activities on the Africa sort of map. And you can see there's a lot of decentralized activities going on. So that is actually quite problematic because they are not united in one platform or under one sort of initiative and drive, so to speak. So again, these countries actually battle to showcase the work that they have done. What is also important is to note that only 2 data repositories has an assigned core trust seal, and that we should work for and strive towards the core trust seal that we can showcase trusted repositories. 2 very interesting, very large collaborations in Africa, which is really a game changer, not only for Africa, but for the rest of the world, is the H3A Africa Human Heredity and Health in Africa. It's a genomics research in Africa with genomic data and data science, just to collect this data, to put them centrally available, to analyze them and to visualize them is quite a tedious task. But despite these challenges, this particular collaboration has managed to work around the different challenges that the countries are receiving. And this is a critical and a core database to genomics research in Africa, particularly. Africa also has a very particular genomic pool, which is not present in the rest of the world. And of course, if we talk about languages, African languages, the data sets, you can see there are some drives as well to take this further. And collaborations, again, the International Science Council plays a huge and a mammoth role in driving collaborative research in Africa. which is also a very important part in what we do. As if I started with personal protection, personal protection of personal information when sharing data. And this is the one that we're trying to also get support from GDPR and from the states. Transdisciplinary research is also in the upcoming. Quite a complex way of doing research, putting the teams together and ensure that you have the right person on the particular team, but certainly it's not lacking. And then as Academy, we also have just launched a statement from the network of African science academies in Africa on open science, where we also promote open science, etc. Just want to see, I think I am at the end of my presentation. It would not move on. So I think I'm going to stop right here, Olavo. So welcome, and I'm passing it over and back to you there.
Thank you, Susan. So I'll next move to Washington. Segundo, who's our final panelist, is from Brazil. He's based at the Brazilian Institute of Information Science and Technology, IBICT. He's actually holds a degree in mathematics, but has worked in information science for most of his life. He's technical coordinator in the area of treatment, analysis, and dissemination of scientific information at his institution, and he coordinates projects committees in the areas of open science. He's the leader of the Brazilian Scientific Research Ecosystem Laboratory and Research, and he's also the representative of IBICT in initiatives in which we collaborate, such as the Open Government Partnership, Compromise for Science in Brazil, and the Brazilian Responsibility Network. So pleased to have you here, Washington. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Olavo. Thank you all for the invitation of participating of this workshop, this webinar. So I start the discussion with the reflection. For example, we have a problem in psychology, in psychotherapy, that is how when we need to take medicine, a psychoactive to solve a psycho problem, or when we need to do psychotherapy. So the moment that we are living, I think we are using much more medicine than doing psychotherapy. I'm doing analogy with the use of subscriptions, the payment of EPCs, and the commercial science that is very strong nowadays. In the opposite side, we have the diamond, sustainable, and open science as a public good. So, and it's much less expensive than the commercial science. There are a lot of studies that show that. So the problem is that we need to transform this communication system from the perspective of the commercial way to the open science and public good way. This is Bjorn Brames. It's a researcher of the University of Würzburg. He in 2019 he says that we need to do a reform in the infrastructure that we have in the communication system. So we need to change the money that we are investing, wasting. It's the most correct way to say that. The money that we are wasting in subscriptions, in APCs, and reports that we are getting from the commercial point to invest it in our own infrastructures of communication to promote the circulation of the information beyond these infrastructures that are financed by mainly by the government of the countries. So my institution is the Brazilian Institute of Information Science Technology. It has the mission of promote competence, development of resources and information infrastructure in science and technology for the production, socialization, and integration of scientific technological knowledge. So the mission of my institution is a government institution is right to to build this infrastructure to mainly in the science and technology field. And where we have a strong focus in open science since the end of the 90s, we have a very strong work in actions to foster open science. So we are working in creating these infrastructures and to foster policies that are important to sustain our open science in Brazil and also in the Latin America region. We are working mainly on research data repositories, scientific journals, open scientific journals, persistent identifiers, and also in supporting the new evaluation models for science and new metrics for science. And which is open science? Open science commonly is exhibited as a umbrella, but it could be thought as a puzzle with different fields of actions. But I think that open science is more like intersection of different fields. So we have a lot of fields that are intersected in the kernel of this intersection could be open science. And also, I like this definition of open science from John Tennant that unfortunately died in 2020, that open science is just science done right. So to implement and to collaborate with international initiatives, regional international initiatives, we have following some working groups and other ways to participate in UNESCO, COARA, that is the Coalition for Advancing Research Assessment, and also the Confederation of Open Access Repositories, and finally La Referencia, that is a Latin American network of open science. It's a network of 11 countries, and also Spain, 11 countries from Latin America, and is also Spain from Europe, and Portugal has also some collaboration with La Referencia. Brazil is part of La Referencia. And via our work with La Referencia. So the main infrastructures that we have in BICT in Brazil, I think I will talk about more from the perspective of IBICT in open science, are the BDTD, that is the Brazilian Digital Library of Thesis Dissertations, OASIS-BR, that is the research, the open research portal in Brazil that has research data and also publications, theses, and dissertations. We also have the BRCRIS, that's the Curious Research Information System for Brazil, and also director of journals, Brazilian journals, that has the name Miguelin. We also have an action of building a data lake for processing scientific data that has the name Laguna, and also persistent identifier that is decentralized, that we had the name DARK. So BDTD has more than 140 digital libraries. It has more or less 1 million of theses and dissertations that is aggregated by this portal. It's a network, indeed, that harvests the metadata from the digital libraries that are maintained by the organizations, the universities and research institutes in Brazil. So BDTD, it's a very traditional database for thesis and dissertations in Brazil. And we also have OASIS-BR, that is an extension of BDTD that aggregates not only thesis and dissertations, but articles, and books, book chapters, and also research data sets. So we have more than 5 million digital objects in this research portal that are harvested by via 1.5 thousand sources. So from these sources, the sources are digital repositories, digital libraries, research data repositories, and we have 17 research data repositories in the network. We have also around 1,100 open journals, and the rest is our repositories and digital libraries of these dissertations. We also have a mechanism that certificates the declaration of theses and dissertations, and our main platform of curriculum, of research curriculum. This certificate is provided by OASIS-BR via our quiz, our national quiz, that is BR-quiz. This could be you could follow the seal that's it's exposed in a thesis or dissertation until the OASIS-BR registry record in the portal, and also accessing the full text in the local digital library of repository or repository. So this is our quiz at national level. Is a project that took several years, but finally in 2023 we launched it. It's a portal that allows to search for publications, people, journals, organizations, patents, courses, postgraduate courses, and also research groups and software. It's a graph. It's a database based on graphs, and it allows us to generate a lot of indicators and dashboards that could help the evaluation of science. And we also have this open information infrastructure in data lake that has the name Laguna. It's a data lake that we are building to foster the analysis of research data, and also over research about open research information, to provide some ways to change the evaluation model that we have for science in Brazil. this data lake is using a local infrastructure and also AWS infrastructure in Amazon. So finally, we have this Miguelin. It's a director of journals in Brazilian journals. It has more than 5,000 journals that are mapped in the Brazilian context. It has a lot of metadata that describes these journals, and it allows us to make some analysis about these journals in the Brazilian and in the international context. And to finalize my exposition is the dark. It's a persistent identifier that we built over decentralized network based on blockchain. So this is in the first phase of the beta first phase. It's already working, and we are also assigning some feeds to repositories, to articles and thesis dissertations, records that are in repositories via OSBR that we have presented. So the idea is to have the assigning of feeds from all the sources that you have in OSBR, and to have a decentralized way of governance of this feed network. And the feed is not only applied to outputs of research, but we want to apply it of any object of the research ecosystem, organizations, at least people and other resources, other agents in this ecosystem. So perspectives, we are expanding this open science infrastructure in Brazil, and we want to disseminate the Brazilian production in a more efficient way, open production, into develop models and technologies for the development of Latin America and Global South, and to reduce the dependence on commercial platforms that you have, and to create new scientific evaluation metrics, and to promote regional international collaboration in open science. This is our perspective. And the challenge is to have source of financing of these long-term projects, and the technical and technological difficulties that we always have, the limited human resources, and mainly the lack of legislation of open science, especially for public funded research. Our academic culture is strongly based on traditional commercial sources and evaluation models in Brazil and also in Latin America. It's a reality. So that's it. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Washington. So we're open for questions now. You can send them. There's a Q&A function, which is called Q&A. Down here, we also have the chat. If you want to ask via the chat, it's a little bit more confusing, but it works as well. I see a single question at the moment, which is from Maksud to originally to Nida, but I may extend this to the others as well. So it's how open and accommodating are you to collaborating with developing countries? What opportunities or potential avenues for collaboration do you see in this context? I think this is an important question. So like I think Nida and Washington in particular have shown multiple infrastructure initiatives within specific countries. Can this be made open to other countries? I mean, again, I guess get back to Susan's point. I mean, there's like a lot of decentralized initiatives around Africa, but no single platform. So how do you see this? I mean, can you extend the initiatives in your countries elsewhere? And if so, how should we do this? I think all three panelists can pitch in on this, starting with Nida, perhaps.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for the question. I think my team will be, he's the project manager of the TDC, Thai Digital Collection, the platform which is collect thesis and dissertations. We'll be glad that you interested in us. Okay. I don't know whether I can completely answer the questions theory, but I think from my point, getting the research recognized globally can open so many opportunities for like researchers for like sharing ideas, sharing the title of the research, which is impact for society, for the global. And we can use the tools as this platform like eLifeSign.org, right? To collaboration or to sharing the ideas among researchers or institutions. Yeah, so that's my point of view.
Washington and then Susan, perhaps?
Yeah, I think it's very important to share all the achievements that we have in terms of technology and also in terms of policies. I think it's necessary to collaborate on it in a very strong way. And we are participating in these forums like CORE and La Referencia to ensure it always. And we are very open to share everything we are developing because we think that it's important to do that.
Susan?
Yes, so that's an interesting question. So within the Cielo network, we collaborate with Brazil and with all the network connections in that particular platform. I mean, there's such a lot of journals into that platform. And I just saw in the question and answer sort of boxes, there's the one about multilingualism into publishing. And this particular platform serves as a very good example. There's Spanish, there's Portuguese, there is Afrikaans, which is my home language. There's English, there's Dutch, there's German, there's French into that particular platform. But I think what is very important is that we all use the same standards and we all use the same software. So I think technologically it is really very possible is to collaborate and to work together. The thing is just that we have to follow international standards to make them interoperable. And I think that's where the problem normally lies, is that the interoperability of different systems. And that is what we have to work towards.
Thank you. I think Susan has already started to answer the second question here, which was what's the importance of publishing research outcomes in languages other than English. On one hand, publishing in local languages may enhance the reach of the studies within local communities. On the other hand, these studies are virtually invisible to the international scientific community. What are your views? I think Susan has already answered that Cielo might be a good model. I think Cielo has a lot of articles which are in multiple languages. I'm not sure Washington or Nita want to comment.
No, I think it's very important to have this translation of the articles and all other things in multiple languages. But I think it's important also to keep the original language of the article. For example, like in Africa, in Brazil, and Spanish countries that are Spanish spoken. But I think that it's important also to have some automatic translation tools that are very fostered by the IA tools nowadays. So we want to implement some translation, automatic translation to provide this in a more easy way. And also another important thing I think is to have some discovered systems that could recover not only English as a main language, a very effective recovering of English, but also other languages and until the language that don't use the Latin alphabet for for recovering. So it is important to have this multilingualism in the systems, and we need to advance on that.
Thank you. Nida, do you want to comment?
I think there's a lot of AI research that's helped this language barrier problems these days. Yeah.
So next question here. You all showed us examples of great platforms, journals, and initiatives from the Global South. So this person who's anonymous asks whether they are being widely adopted by local research communities, or is there still some resistance due to the pressure to publish in journals from the Global North and high impact factors? I think Washington touched on this on the end of his presentation. Maybe you can start.
Yeah, the problem is that we have very old way of evaluate science, and we need to make revolution and evolution on that. I think it's time to do that, and I think that a lot of countries and institutions that are working on this, and we need to push it also in our region, mainly in Brazil, because Brazil, it's always the country that pushes the trend in the Latin America, I think, and together with Olavo and other important researchers in Brazil, we are trying to do that with some organizations in Brazil that are responsible for the evaluation of science. For example, CAPES, that is the organization that makes the evaluation of the graduate programs, the graduate and postgraduate programs in Brazil. It's starting to do a change in the evaluation, but it's a process that I think it's very slow, and we want to go faster, but we need to have patience to do that.
Susan and Nida, want to comment?
Just want to concur with what Washington has been saying. You know, especially in the open science sort of remit of things, and the reformation of the research assessment system, of course, is also high on our agenda. It's a long process. It moves very slow. I think for us, that was a breakthrough in South Africa, is when our University of Rhodes, who is a small university but a high intensive research institution, declared with other universities of the globe that they will not support university rankings anymore. And I can see part of their process is they're starting to break down this notion to publish in journals from with high impact factors. You know, so yes, it is quite a process to change the research system, especially the research evaluation system. But certainly it's on the agenda, and there's a lot of work being done around that.
Nida?
In terms of policy, I can share that Thailand, we have the policy that allocate the budget for among the university as the clusters. Like we classify the university to be 5 clusters, such as innovations, the universities that focus on support the society, and others. And we try to focus on allocate the budget to the university, which is focused on the university ranking, in order to make the budget efficiency.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, just adding to this, I think the tide has turned a bit in Brazil. I think we're always slow to adapt, and I think we've been chasing the global north in terms of evaluation for a long time. But I think, particularly because of the whole open science, exploitative APC, like once the open science budget actually, the publishing budget actually shifted to researchers, in the form of APCs, I think people started seeing the bill. And I think that has slowly led the research community to realize we need change. I think the last year or two in Brazil have been quite positive in at least acknowledging that we should be more supportive of local publishing initiatives and less dependent on high impact factor journals. So next question is from Chris Wood. Congratulations for all these impressive initiatives. The benefits of open science practices are unarguable. He's a director at a national facility, but he says that it's obvious that everything we are doing will be better if implemented as an institution-wide policy and framework, and even better as a national policy implementation. I mean, things work better and work in more in scale when they're up in the ladder. But he says every time we try to take the argument up the ladder, we get zero interest. Nobody sees a point. Nobody wants to pay. And he says the initiatives presented today clearly had a number of stakeholders involved, including institutional and governmental actors. And he asks, how did these initiatives reach this level of organization? Bottom-up approaches really cannot get very far. They quickly reach limits of cost and scalability. So how do you connect these various bottom-up initiatives to the top to make them more institutional, ideally at the national level? Susan, you want to start?
Yes, and I suppose it will differ from country to country. And you're absolutely right, Chris. You know, it did need a lot of institutional and governmental actors, societies, universities, South Africa, etc., to make this work. But I think what was a breakthrough is, from the Academy's point of view, is we did a consensus study. And the title of the study was A Strategic Approach to Scholarly Publishing in South Africa. So it showcased in what bad state the scholarly journals were at the time in South Africa. What did they mean? What did they contribute? Remember, in South Africa, we get funding in publishing in accredited journals. So, you know, that's also quite a driving factor. And the purpose of the research output policy was not only to drive output, that should increase, but also the quality of these journals. And when we released this report, we came up with a number of recommendations. And one very pertinent recommendation is to go open access and to look at centralization of all these activities where this could be driven from a central point. And at that point, also, the Academy of Sciences took a decision by its council that ASIP will be the implementing agency of all this work. So that has helped us incredibly to mobilize and to strategize around now sort of the next level of open science in the country. It's not to say that it's not without a battle, a daily battle, and continuous discussion and advocacy and lobbying. But certainly that strategic approach, that study to understand what's happening to South African journals and how poor they were way back in 2008. And if we evaluate them now, we can see a huge improvement in their quality and standardization and following standards, best practices, etc. Of course, Yellow Brazil is also quite a big driving factor behind the standards and upping the game on a continuous and a 5-year basis. Thank you.
Nida?
Okay. For the quality of the research or the journals, it's the requirements in like almost every academics in order to apply for the professor career in academic fields. But our challenge is in Thailand is we have so many research from all the universities, but we would like to connect the researchers to the business sectors to implement some ideas or to connect to startups and to maybe connect to the researchers that which which title, which what they need to do to the research. It's the challenge for Thailand right now to like not to collaborate with business sectors and like all the partners or the like stakeholders, not only in academic fields.
Yeah. Washington, do you want to comment? Maybe, I mean, touching on the example of Cielo, which I think, again, has been a successful initiative, which has moved up, might be, I mean, neither of us work at Cielo, but I think if you can comment on that.
Yeah, I think it's a very impressive initiative that we had at the end of the 90s as well. And I think we need to invest in Cielo and to promote it. It's a more inclusive platform for journals of not only for Brazil, but of all only for all the Cielo network. And I think that the work we are doing via OGP, the Open Government Partnership, it's also a way to promote democratic discussion on it and to involve all the high level directors of all the Brazilian institutions. I think this is a way also to have awareness of the importance of this discussion and the higher level people that make the decisions of implementing policies at the national level. So I think we need to continue in this way to promote this awareness of the importance we are doing.
Yeah, OGP might be an example. I mean, just explaining to everybody. I mean, people may not feel familiar, but like the Open Government Partnership is an international initiative. I think has over 70 countries in which government entities and the civil society collaborate to set a few goals for open government in general. And in Brazil, I think we have managed to put open science within the open government scope for the last 3 plans. So that actually creates compromises on a national level, that commitments on a national level that countries should aspire to, and that gives the opportunity for a lot of people from the civil society as well to comment. So if this happens in your country, if your country is committed to the Open Government Partnership, there are periodic calls for themes and topics within open government, and you can certainly insert open science in that in terms to try to get higher up the ladder. We have done that. I think that has been successful. So next question is to Susan specifically from H3 Africa's experience in building data sharing capacity and consensus. What are some best practices suggestions for other fields with established standards interoperability already?
I would certainly say to start off with stakeholder engagement. Understand who are those organizations that will be partnering with you. Secondly, understand the problems that they might have, not only with gathering, by recording and to upload perhaps the data to a central place. And definitely sort of work in a collaborative way with each other, listen to each other. This was very important. This particular project is to understand what the problems are and to find solutions for them, because the problems were on different levels, especially on connectivity, on computer capacity, on availability of the internet, etc. So sometimes it's very technical, almost problems that they would occur, and you have to get some roundabouts like that, and then work towards the different standards being fair, etc. Also recognize that each country functions in its own framework, milieu, and that you have to honor and respect the laws in that particular country, especially when it comes to data sharing. And if you share the area, how should you share it? And especially in the H3A BioNet framework is where there are some personal information also attached to that data, the sensitivity around it. And then, of course, very important is to ensure that the data is always available for that particular country, and that we do not practice any helicopter, excuse me, helicopter science is where researchers leave a particular country. They take all the data, all the visualizations and analysis with them, and Africa doesn't have access to their own data. So there must be fairness, equity, equality also embedded in the sharing of this data set, etc. And by visualizing and making the results then available.
Thanks. Do the committee have any questions? We have Yuzu, Maksud, Mercury, Nuru, Umberto, Tao, Rose. I can start. I think Susan touched on and oh, Mercury, sorry, you can start.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay. I was just wondering, when we look at the open access, when we are mapping and doing things like that, do we also check to see what are the other elements within that open access structure that exist that are still acting as barriers? I'm talking about the charges, the APCs, and if we can also see how we can not necessarily like regulate, but see how we can be able to make it into something which is manageable. Because we talk about open access, but when you look at the APCs, they are too expensive, so you still can't really publish. Yes, you can publish and your work will be visible, but we are not able to afford to publish. So maybe that's something to think about.
Susan, would you like to start?
Mercury, I just want to respond and say, yes, you're absolutely right. That is a continuous battle, but that's also very important where consortiums, library consortiums come into play, is where they actually negotiate for transformative agreements, where they use the monies in the system through subscription models to actually remodel and to reapply them to allow for let me call it almost a free to publish, free article processing charges. So it's a whole ecosystem, and that we must realize. And we must not see these debates in isolation from each other, because they all plug into each other to, in the end, actually constitute open science. But it's a very important point. It is still a problem. There's slow progress on the African context in terms of article processing charges. There has been more progress in South Africa because of the huge subscriptions we pay. But I know that there are initiatives in Africa, particularly where they work and operate like transformative agreements towards open access, etc.
Is Washington gone? Momentarily. Yes. Nida, you want to comment?
Okay, I agree with Susan to work as a library consortium, because in Thailand we did that for the reference database. I mean, if you have seen my presentations, we provide a lot of reference database online, such as IEEE sprinkling, oh sorry, can I say the name? To 80 government institutions, universities, and also we assist private universities for like help them negotiation with the publishers also.
Yusu?
Thank you. Thank you to all the speakers for the wonderful mapping of the Global South and with respect to open science. I'm going to direct my question to Susan. I mean, you also kind of highlighted my interest again on the issue of policies. You know, when you look at Africa particularly, you see a bit of diversity we have in terms of the depth of adoption, you know, with respect to policies. For example, when you look at the numbers of those who even have that discussion going on, just a handful of them. And then when you also compare that with, the countries that have, the higher, higher number of outputs in terms of knowledge output, I mean, publications, for example, like Nigeria, like South Africa, like Egypt, is just 1 out of 3 of them that have a policy that is actually working. So I'm looking at, someone mentioned about, bottom-top approach or top-bottom approach. What do you think that has been the issue with respect to policies from the institutional level to the national level, even to the continental level? We've seen works across alliances, WACRI, even UNESCO, trying to bring everybody together, but something seems not to be working. I don't know. If you ask me, I may say diversity, but what do you think? I want to see your perspective with respect to, policy in countries and in the continent as a whole.
I think what is important is that, which levels should we start with the policies? I think at the way back when we started with open access, we advocated for institutional open access policies. And that sort of paved the way for governmental policies and raising awareness on a much higher level about the open science. Secondly, I think you need a couple of people, leaders, prominent researchers in different fields that would start lobbying for open science and start discussing also with government this opportunities of open science and the possibilities of policies. And then we must not underestimate the roles of academies of sciences in the different countries, because they are positioned to inform government about evidence-based studies, consensus studies, policies, etc. So that's another avenue that one could take, is the academies of sciences. We must also remember that research is not funded in all the countries on the Africa continent, and that's the biggest problem. So there's a sister project going on. It's called the Science Granting Council's Initiative. So that is to establish funding agencies to fund research in a particular country. That initiative is very important because it also makes a case for academies, for research funds within a particular country. And as soon as you put those building blocks in place, then the situation becomes more conducive to adopting and listening to the lobbyists who advocates for open science. Ethiopia, it has followed the South African model very closely, and they have a very strong academy in their country, and that academy has a lot of influence and profile within government, which I think is also important. That relationship is also important, how you position yourself in terms of government in its entirety. I hope that's helpful. That's just a few ideas.
Nida, any thoughts on that?
Okay. I agree with Susan about the maybe the policy need to be support all the researchers by, like, for in Thailand, our challenge is we have to show the result and impact of every investment in order to supporting all the learning resources. And we try to connect more to the stakeholders, business sectors, or other like research communities to make the collaborations and make the impact together.
Yes. So Washington has had to leave the webinar for an emergency. He just told me, so like he sends his apologies. If I can answer for Brazil taking over, I think I think again I super agree with Susan. I mean, I think it comes from multiple actors. You have researchers who become open advocates of open science. You have learned societies. You have research organizations that are keen on this. Washington is one example. They're the Brazilian Institute for Information Science and Technology, but they actively do research and provide infrastructure for this, and they're paid for doing that. And their institution that does this. I think it's important to connect this within the country as well. I think it's very frequent that people don't know each other within. I mean, of course, Brazil is very large, but I mean, I came into the whole open science field from the reproducibility / research quality debate. I think there's a lot of open science people who have come from the open access movement or via citizen science or via open. So like, I think these things coalesce. I think we don't always know what people. So it's important to try to gather these people together. I think the Open Government Partnership, which I have just mentioned, has put me in contact with a lot of other advocates who come from other sides of the debate, who I didn't really know. I also had the Brazilian Reproducibility Network these days, which tries to connect institutions, researchers. It's more focused on research reproducibility, but it has a large overlap with open science. And this can be built from the ground. I mean, this can be formed by, but this can be built from the ground up. I think there's a big niche to be filled in terms of like just connecting people who are already working. I think this happens at the national level within a large country such as Brazil. Perhaps smaller countries might, with smaller research communities, it might be more easier to see who's working on this. But I think it should work on a larger scale as well. And then I don't really know how to make it work on the Latin America or global South level, but I think it's important to think about this, how to make these connections. I think there's a lot going on, and really I think connecting these people and mapping what's out there is super important. Do we have more questions on the panel? I don't see any more from the public. If not,
can I?
Yeah.
I just want to sort of elaborate a little bit on my answer from Christine Rogers, is how could we collaborate, etc. You know, especially in the medical field, there's huge possibility for AI technologies to be implemented. She was mentioning a example there of EEGs, you know, for instance. There are great initiatives worldwide where sort of imagery is shared and placed on a repository, and where diagnosis and sort of solutions to certain health problems then happens actually across the world, even if you're based in Brazil or in South Africa and you have this particular problem. So, you know, this is a very interesting field of collaboration, especially, as I said, you know, introducing AI to this spectrum, because AI has the possibility to also open up even furthermore. Of course, it raises issues in terms of research ethics and integrity and copyright and a lot of other issues, which it brings to the fore. But a very interesting field, and that was quite an interesting question. Thank you, Christine.
Yes. I think we have to end in 3 minutes. So does anyone have any final remarks which fit in a minute? Otherwise, I might just thank the panelists. And Shane, do you want to do the closing remarks for us?
Perfect. Yes, thank you all so much for joining, and to our committee members and panelists today for that really great Q&A. I think there's lots of resources, initiatives that I was previously unaware of that I'll be really excited to check out following this event. So thank you again. So I think to wrap up, just to share a few ways that you can stay up to date with our various initiatives. You can visit eLife's community page and join eLife's community newsletter, following the links in the chat. Thank you, Anne, for sharing those. And you can also follow eLife community on X and Twitter, and also on Blue Sky. So yeah, just a sincere thanks again to our panelists and to everyone that tuned in today, contributed to today's discussion. And thanks to everybody that's participated in the committee since it was founded. And hope you all will continue to follow along. We're also really keen to establish partnerships and collaborations with ethos-aligned organizations and initiatives who work in this space. So please welcome you to get in touch with eLife's Research Culture Manager, Anna Kozhanowska, using the email address provided. Thank you all very much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks all.